I watch an enormous amount of videos, and invariably, most videos, most of what people are saying, I've heard the vast majority of it before. You know, this tends to be the realm when you are delving into certain subjects. You keep going over and over and over the same sort of things, but every now and again there's the odd gem that somebody throws in, which gives rise to another neuronal passageway of thought and brings about inspiration and a little bit more clarity and things like that. And so last night I came upon a particular video which was absolutely riveting for me. It took my attention to the deepest possible level of concentration, whereby I was transfixed, looking, trying to lip read, trying to hear, trying to discern, trying to decipher every single thing that these two people were speaking about, because it was absolutely right for me at this moment in time, and there was something which was fresh there. And so what this video was about, there's a scientist who's wrote a book, and I'm going to put the link down below, obviously, because I want to encourage you guys to watch this video. It's almost 2 hours long, and it's called A Case Against Reality. And the book is written by Professor Donald Hoffman, and he's interviewed by a very articulate and thought-provoking doctor. It's a fantastic interview, and what is actually said in the video and discourse is amazing for people such as me, because what this doctor was hypothesizing in his theorem, the professor, what he was hypothesizing in his theorem is that what we see isn't anything like the reality. Now, many people have spoken about this in the past, but what he's saying basically, he was explaining it in you know, many different ways, and he's taken it even further, much to the chagrin of his peers, who are tending not to agree because they're more scientifically based. But he's really going out on a limb into another realm of consciousness, and he's hypothesizing, what if the vast majority of scientists are following a dead end, following a wrong lead? And this is it, you see. But there was one quantum physicist which stated that the only time change is ever going to come about is with the death of the old hypothesis, invariably when the person who created the hypothesis passes, and you know, the youth take over, and they're not afraid of being ridiculed by the existing entourage of hypothesis, which basically is in a similar sort of realm, you know. Somebody that comes up with something completely different, i.e. Schrodinger and you know, lots of people like that, then initially they are ridiculed and scorned, and so people don't like this. I mean, it's the last thing anybody wants, and they have to be really brave to have the likes of your peers like Max Planck and Einstein, you know, not agree with your hypothesis. So this Professor Donald Hoffman, he's saying that what we have done, what consciousness has actually done through evolution, it's evolved through the most simplest of terms, i.e. Occam's razor, always looking for the most simple of explanations which give rise to feasibility of any given problem that we've got. And it's the simplicity that tends to lead to be built upon by future conscious beings. A little bit like, look at what's happening now with the phone. In the past, there were times when many more people were thinking for themselves. They could actually do math, you know, with a pen and paper. But these days, how many people can actually do math without the aid of a calculator? And so you can see that the simplest avenue is taking more energy, and so less and less people are being able-bodied to actually compute math within their minds, and they're depending on an external force. And so we're losing our mind, aren't we, to the external force. And what is gaining energy and power? It's the external force, which is a creation of some of our minds who actually still do think like great mathematicians. There's very few of them relatively, but they still actually think, and they make these devices for people who don't want to think, who can't think, you see. So can you see what's happening to evolution and to the personal evolution of man? We're not evolving, are we? We're devolving, and what is evolving actually is the AI. And so this is a very, very curious situation that we're going to be finding ourselves in increasingly as time goes on, because less and less people are going to be able-bodied to think about anything, and we're going to be absolutely entirely dependent on AI. But this particular discourse isn't about that. What it's about is that the Occam's razor kind of simplicity has took precedent through evolution, and what it's done is that it's offered up to the human being like symbols, for instance, and we have taken on board the symbolism, and we've passed that on to our offspring, and we've left out the intricacies of the knowledge that we knew. I.e., for instance, if we know how to produce Coca-Cola, well, we don't pass on the ingredient to Coca-Cola anymore, we just pass on the symbol. And as long as somebody somewhere is producing Coca-Cola, then there needn't be, you know, hardly anybody on the planet know how you make Coca-Cola. It's not necessary. All they have a relationship with is the symbolism of Coca-Cola. And everybody knows what Coca-Cola is. Well, they don't, do they? All they know is that Coca-Cola is a sugary, fizzy a drink which isn't necessarily good for you, and so they don't know about the ingredients used, they don't know how it's produced, and all this sort of thing. And so another analogy could be that if we look at a computer game, then the computer games, they are built on kind of like a need-to-know basis sort of thing. If you're driving a car, then you're going to want a steering wheel, maybe, with your hands on it, and that's built on the screen, and then there's a projection of what you are driving on, a road, dirt track or whatever, and you're seeing all this stuff. Well, there's no need to see the sky, there's no need to see the ocean over there, there's no need to see where you've been. All that we are privy to is what is actually important to this game. You see, the game is the interface, and the interface is the steering wheel and the hypothesis of a car and the hypothesis of a road and this, that and the other, and we're completely engaged in that. But that's not the reality, that's only the interface. The reality is all the programming which goes on behind the scenes, behind the screen. I mean, the screen fundamentally is pixels, and the pixels is binary, and what's behind the screen, what produces the graphics is computer code, and so we don't know anything about that. We're not engaged in that at all. If we could just see the computer code, then we wouldn't be able to interpret what on earth was going on, so we need it to be very, very dumbed down and simplified for us, don't we? And so that's why the graphics, that's why the symbolism come into place. So what this video is speaking about is that is all we are doing in this world. We are just seeing the end result of the most simple form of all that mass detail. because if we saw the mass detail, it would blow our minds, and it would simply overload our pea brains as human beings. So therefore, then all we see really is the tip of the iceberg. We just see the pinnacle. That's all we're interested in, the end result of whatever is the easiest for us to follow, and in return it keeps us alive, you see, because there has to be a symbiotic relationship between the information that we gather, the interface, and the survival. Because if there's no survival, there's no point to the interface, is there? And if there's, you know, no interface, and there's no survival, so it all breaks down. So the interface absolutely has to be providing our current evolution of consciousness exactly what it needs to continue to live and procreate and engage in the interface and build the interface, indeed, because we build it but via our projections, don't we? We dismiss all the intricacies and we just want the end result. And this is how the whole world's going, and it's going faster and faster and faster, whereby we are only looking now for one answer to one question. And if we want to know anything about the world, then we just Google it. And Google has become our interface to the whole world. We don't look ourselves, we don't investigate ourselves, we don't ask questions ourselves, we don't doubt, you know, we don't hypothesize, we don't do any of this thing. We just think, if indeed we even think about questions, then we just put the question into Google, and whatever Google tells us we accept. Simple. And we only want it in 1 or 2 lines, because if it's more than that, we can't be bothered even to read it. And so you can see then, well, we may be able to get some sort of a grasp on the very, very fragile aspect of our current survival. Because once this interface breaks down, we lose our phones. We have a coronal mass ejection which wipes out all of the computer technology. Then we're back to the Stone Age era, and what skills have we got? Nothing. We've lost all those skills. So I'm putting this link down below. For me, it was a really, really inspiring and invigorating video. It really filled up my batteries and gave me oh, goodness me. It's given me another portal into how I've been thinking, because in this video I was saying yes, it's great, I love how you're explaining all this, because we create our reality, consciousness creates our reality. We've been told that for you know, this past 100 years via quantum physics, but then, you know, I've had experience like many other people have with psychedelics. If you take DMT, then DMT builds a simulacrum. It puts an overlay onto the current world. Everything is here, like all the trees and all the blades of grass are here, and the buildings and everything, but it just overlays them with another serving suggestion of how the world could look. And so you ask yourself, is that the reality? Is that what is behind what human beings in their everyday interfacing has created? Because it's amazingly complex and beautiful, stunningly beautiful, and due to the nature of it, you're constantly looking around like this, because it's so awe-inspiring, it's so incredible that it's an absolute consciousness feast. And I swear it's a good job that these DMT trips are only very, very short-lived, because if they're about an hour or 2, your brain will probably fry, because there's too much information. It's a whole new experience. It's like having the eyes and mind of a baby, I suppose, in an adult form, whereby we're able to question and things like this, and also we're placed in a new world, and it's entirely shocking to us. And so in the end of this video, they did broach DMT and psilocybin and acid and these sort of things, and spoke about those realms that we go in. And this Donald Hoffman is hypothesizing and he's hoping that with the science and with the math, then they will be able to recreate those experiences via some other means rather than taking some substance. Maybe just putting some probes on the brain and firing certain electronic impulses or whatever, because many of these things, I mean, what they do is they put certain electromagnetism plates on the head, and all of a sudden the vision turns into black and white in people, and then when they take it off it turns back into colour. It's very, very curious how all this stuff works, isn't it? And so it's very, very exciting times, and these scientists, they're really excited, and I'm excited that I came upon this video seemingly by chance, but the analogue in the computer knew I was dying for it, and so that provided it to me. And so, if you have time with your busy lives, and if you have any level of interest in this level of esoteric knowledge about the nature of consciousness and what life is, if you contemplate these things in a deep and meaningful way, then you'll really enjoy this video.